like your goal, one of my goal, I'm 44. So one of my big goals is explaining to women what's happening so they go, oh, so I'm not crazy.
Yes.
I'm not crazy. Okay. Oh my gosh, I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, nope.
Yep. It would be
No, you are
helpful.
not. And tell your partner what's happening with you so they can have a little understanding of, oh, okay, yeah, like puberty, but in reverse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they weren't with you when you went through
Right.
puberty.
Yes. Dr. Mindy in the house. All right.
I appreciate that.
The carnivore diet.
Because of what we eat.
Honestly, you've really touched my heart.
Most of our Dutch tests, I would say 90% of them are women over 40. If you're looking at the first page of the Dutch test, what do you think? I'm going to put a quiz at you now. What do you think the one hormone that we consistently see low, one unexpected hormone that we consistently see low on these women?
Oh, over 40? I was going to say testosterone.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. This is why you're the hormone expert.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, absolutely.
Why?
So-
I'm going to say 99% of women over, and men too. We do some male Dutch tests are low in testosterone. Why?
Testosterone in women are made in 3 different places. So it's made 20 to 25% in the ovaries, 20 to 25% in the adrenal glands, and the rest is made in peripheral tissue, usually often fat tissue, adipose tissue. So as women are going into perimenopause and menopause, and their ovaries are actively doing the shutdown, I'm not making hormones thing, then testosterone is the first to drop, because testosterone is the first hormone you have to create in the ovaries to create any of the other hormones. So in the ovaries, if you want to create estrogen, and then if you want to create progesterone, you have to create testosterone and androstenedione first. Now, women go, hold on, but I have lots of estrogen. As I get like, where's all this extra estrogen coming from? Women, we can make it in our fat tissue. We can aromatase it in our fat tissue. And so we have other areas besides the ovaries that we make it. So as women are shutting down their ovaries, if they're not functioning that well, we lose 20 to 25% of our testosterone. And then moving to our adrenal glands, if we're not doing so hot in the stress response and we're starting to bottom out and burn out, not only does it affect our cortisol, but it affects our androgen production, as we call it, our testosterone, DHEAS, androstenedione, those core hormones. And so we see it a lot. Women, as they get older, it's a super unfair, I don't even know the right word, biologic, prehistoric,
Super unfair.
crappy thing we got stuck with, you know? And I was joking the other day, not joke. I mean, I'm telling the truth, but I joke when I say it, is I was doing a webinar and I was saying how, women biologically are created to have the babies, whether you have babies or not. I didn't have a baby, but I know my body is constantly surveying, like, is it safe enough for a baby? Is it safe enough for a baby? And then for the women who did have the babies, right, you have the babies. And then as you get older, you would think that biology would go, congratulations, thank you for all your service. We're going to make you svelte. We're going to give you all this energy. We're going to make your hair long and luscious. We're going to give you the sex drive of a 16-year-old. It's going to be amazing. And instead, it's like, thank you for your service. Here's perimenopause.
Yes.
Like, what?
Yes. I actually
we lose
think
testosterone.
so. Then we lose it. And do we ever get it back?
So I have this core group of women. So as women are in perimenopause, because the brain is constantly yelling at the ovaries, make a hormone, do something. There's a temporary time where the group of cells that make testosterone, they're called theca cells, they get thick. And when they get thick, they do kind of like temporarily pump out more androgens. So there's this crazy weird time in perimenopause where women do get more testosterone, and then it kind of falls off because you're losing these cells, you're losing these theca cells. And then once they hit menopause, they don't really get it back because you've lost the ovarian, the 20 to 25% part out of the ovaries. And now you're just relying on your excess tissue all around you and your ovaries to make up the slack. So you never make it up necessarily 100%. I definitely have women that maintain libido and maintain all these things to a decent degree, but majority of women are like, yeah, that left a long time ago. I don't have that anymore. I would like more of that.
Yes. So this is why I wanted to start with testosterone. I mean, all the hormones impact our behavior, but I feel like testosterone impacts your relationships. And when you start to look at women over 40, what's happening to women that are in heterosexual relationships? They're like, maybe their kids have like grown up, they're like off to college, that's stressful, and like they're left at home with their spouse. And now I want to talk about a man's testosterone levels here, but his levels aren't changing, your levels are plummeting, your progesterone's plummeting, so you're anxious all the time. And that to me seems like a recipe. You're gaining weight because your estrogen, become insulin resistant. That seems like a recipe for divorce.
I hear that from a lot of practitioners who work with the perimenopause, menopause subset of women, where they say, I feel like if women were educated about perimenopause and menopause, not even just women, men too, right? But like, doesn't matter if you're homosexual, heterosexual, doesn't matter. I feel like if women were just educated of what happens in the perimenopause, menopause time, we'd probably save a lot of relationships. Yeah, now, that's somewhat tongue in cheek, don't hold me to that. If you're in a bad relationship, don't be in it. But at the same time, women are going through such a transition. And like I said, like, we're not getting luscious hair, and we're not getting all the energy, and we're not getting, lots of sleep, and we're not getting the svelte body that we were hoping for. And in fact, we're getting the opposite. And so the hormonal shift isn't exactly ideal for an ideal relationship. And it's not even our partner relationship. It can be all relationships, how you feel at work, how you interact with your kids, how you snap the person at the grocery store, how you feel about yourself. I mean, it can be really damaging as you make this transition. And what's even worse, as you know, because you read about this, is that the transition can be long.
It's
long.
It can be it's long, years, and arduous.
Years. Yeah. Yeah. And I, and so it's really like your goal, one of my goals. I'm 44. So one of my big goals is explaining to women what's happening, so they go, oh, so I'm not crazy.
Yes.
I'm not crazy. Okay. Oh my gosh, I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, nope.
Yep. It would be
no,
helpful.
You are not. And tell your partner what's happening with you, so they can have a little understanding of, oh, okay, yeah, like puberty, but in reverse.
Yeah, but they weren't with you when you went through puberty.
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
They don't know what that's like. Yeah, I was the other day I was listening to a male expert talk about menopausal hormones, and no disrespect, he definitely knew his hormones and knew everything, but I was like, oh man, you don't know until you live it. Like it's like an alien hijacks your brain, and you literally cannot, like, you can't get it under control. And it takes, that's why I wrote the book, is like, it takes a consistent lifestyle change. But it's so easy to look outside of ourselves and be like, it's your fault, and it's your fault, and it's your fault.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know how we get that out to women. So yeah,
I wish, and it needs to start young. I mean, I know when we're all in middle school, nobody wants to hear about menopause in middle school, but at least if somebody had said, here, we're going to explain whatever, Sex Ed 101, we're going to talk to you about puberty, and we're just going to throw this at you, this thing about menopause, just so when you get older, it's not going to be a total surprise. You can be like, I think I heard about that when I was 13. Okay, that makes sense. And then just continually sort of updating women, when they go for their annual exam, like, here's what's coming up. Like kids go to see their pediatrician, for milestone checkups. Like, women should too.
Absolutely.
We need milestone checkups. Like, okay, you're in your 20s now. Here's what, okay, you're in your 30s now. Okay, you're in your 40s now. Like, okay, thank you.
It could be like an oil. It could be like an oil check. Like, like we need to have like, hey, this is the new hormonal phase. Like, you're about to get depleted in this hormone, so you might want to pay attention to it. So, why on the Dutch test is there no postmenopausal range for testosterone?
So there is now, there's age ranges. So it doesn't have the little purple box, but we do have the age range. And the reason we don't have a true, like an estrogen, progesterone, we actually show you the postmenopausal range, because not all women hit that testosterone range of, just because you're over 50 doesn't mean you're going to have a low testosterone. And whereas with estrogen and progesterone, we know real consistently if your ovaries are done, here's what your estrogen and your progesterone looks like. Whereas testosterone doesn't always follow that same mindset.
Okay.
And so, and I don't want to falsely give women the impression that your testosterone's high just because, like, you are in your 50s as an example, but you have the testosterone of a 30-year-old. I'm like, hold on to that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like,
thank your lucky stars every day.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Now, there's always, of course, testosterone can cause problems, and testosterone and estrogen imbalance can be an issue for some women. But to the women listening who are like, you know what, actually my libido is pretty good and I'm feeling pretty, pretty sweet in that department. I'm like, okay, then hold on to it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you,
right,
oh, you're too high, when honestly you feel good.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason.
Okay.
That's the one hormone that we're like,
it's hard to categorize it like that. So, okay, so with testosterone, we've got age over 40, there's going to be a natural production. We've got, so you're stressed out and your adrenals are making part of your testosterone load. So we've got that. What about insulin resistance? Does that play a part in this?
So insulin resistance, I feel, plays a part. High insulin actually can increase testosterone.
Okay.
But we know that insulin resistance can actually affect so many other hormones, whether it's estrogen, progesterone, cortisol in the brain, that then makes you feel like you have low testosterone. So insulin resistance and glucose issues can make you feel tired, and it can make you feel moody, and it can make you feel maybe unmotivated, maybe unattractive. And so you are like, look, I'm not in the mood, but you're thinking, oh, I must have low testosterone because
you feel like
I'm never in the mood, right? I don't have a libido. And really, it's the other hormones kind of killing the switch.
Got it. Okay. And are there foods we can eat to raise testosterone?
Wouldn't that be nice? I swear, I would just, if I knew, I would just be like.
What about oysters? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't it an aphrodisiac?
It's the aphrodisiac. It's the zinc. It's the zinc in oysters that. So zinc supportive foods and what do you do if you don't like oysters? I don't like oysters.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a food that I know that doesn't. I mean, if I told you, I swear, if it was that simple. I mean, if it was like eat pineapple, your testosterone will go up. I mean, Dole had better look out. Women of the world would invest.
Right.
You think Bitcoin's worth a lot of money? If I told you if it was pineapple,
let's do a test. Let's see.
Right.
Let's try it out on your Instagram and let's see what happens.
Oh, no. Can't be. Yeah. I get asked, I'm sure you do too. Like, what's the one thing I can take to raise testosterone? And I tell women, as a woman in her 40s, I promise I would tell you if I knew the secret sauce. I would just drop it by the airplane all across the United States, all across the world.
Yeah.
I swear I wouldn't hold back. I'm not holding it to myself.
Right. You're not like I've got testosterone.
Hoarding. I know.
I know.
I don't have like boxes of a magic pill over here that I'm like stocked up on for no, I would tell you.
Yeah, that would be
it is definitely a combination of a lot of things. And there's, besides your book, there's another book that I really like. It's called Come As You Are, and it's Emily Nagoski.
Okay.
And she talks about, it's a lot about hormone to a degree, but also, as we were talking, like our mind frame around libido and testosterone. Yeah. And so, because, we get asked as women, like, well, how come I used to be ready to go in my 20s and now I'm 40 or 50 and I'm not ready to go? I'm like, there's a big difference in your life.
Yeah, right.
Between 20 and 50. You were staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, partying your little pants out in your 20s. And now you go to bed at 9 and think,
right,
this is so nice.
Right. And then,
did I get enough water today?
Yeah. And you think you're old.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And you've got kids and you've got a job. And just like you were saying, your kids are transitioning and you're at the height of your career and you've got older parents and you're, we have a pandemic happening and, there's just, and it's hard to be in the mood like men because men have proportionately more testosterone. They have a full bucket of testosterone and we have like
Like,
a few drops,
right.
comparatively. And so it's like, why are men always in the mood? I'm like, because they literally, not all, I mean, I'm generalizing, but stereotypically, when men have robust testosterone, it's still so much higher than our testosterone. So theirs goes up a little bit and they're like, game on. And ours goes up a little bit and we're still like, meh.
Right. We're like, maybe.
Yeah. Right. Maybe. I'll think about it.
It's kind of the go-to answer. So
Yeah.
I've actually thought about the difference if you just look at how men, when they secrete testosterone compared to women. So if men are making testosterone every couple of hours and we get a burst of it in a small little section while we ovulate, that's a mismatch right there.
Yeah. And men make it in their sleep. Because men, there was a study where they took just a small handful of men. It was a small study, but still, they cut their sleep down, I think, to 5 hours a night. And they found that just cutting their sleep to 5 hours decreased their testosterone 10 to 15% production. But then when they got their sleep back, when they went back to like 8 hours, their testosterone went back up. And so I have women that ask me, if I sleep 8 hours, will I get that same effect? I'm like, unfortunately, no. I mean, sleep absolutely helps, but men truly make it in their sleep. And, they get this big surge, and which is why they wake up with, should wake up with morning erections because the testosterone is surging. Yeah. Whereas women, just like you said, it's our surge is like right around ovulation. So our surge is 2 days a month, right. 30 days a month, I mean, we have it all the time, but our surge is really biological. It's to get us in the mood. So if we wanted to be pregnant, we'd be around ovulation and could be pregnant. Yeah. And then we go back down again. And then we're like, meh.
Yeah. Right? Now this should be taught
mismatch.
Like the first concept about like your perimenopause and how your hormones will change should be taught to 13-year-olds. This idea of mismatched testosterone should be in every premarital counseling session, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
At least imagine heterosexual couples, it would be really helpful.
Right. I think so too. Absolutely. And even not heterosexual couples, if you're not matched up with your partner,
good point.
If your wife is not the same as you and she ovulated a week ago and you ovulate in a week, like,
oh, that's a great
you're
point.
still like, not matched up. And so it can still be a problem.
Yeah. So interesting. They need to come up with something called like testosterone syncing.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be cool? Like you could find a way to like sync your testosterone with your partner's testosterone and then boom. That would be like
make magic happen.
Yeah, that could be. I would think on that, huh?
Yeah. I know.
I have been trying to find the research on intermittent fasting and testosterone, and it's not easy to find. I know it's
not in women.
Yeah, it's an urban myth that's out there, but I haven't, I haven't found anything that has blown my mind that intermittent fasting will do it.
When you do all your teaching and everything with intermittent fasting, do you get anecdotal reports? Do you have women report back to you like, wow, my testosterone went up?
That's a great question.
I don't hear that. I hear other things, brain clarity, energy, maybe some weight loss. But I don't hear libido.
Yep.
But again, it's not my field, so I don't know.
And we don't, with our resetters, we don't talk about libido as much because I usually get the menopausal woman who's just like, help, I need my brain to function right. And I need to drop some weight and I need my body to stop feeling horrible. Like sex is the last thing on her mind. But I bet if we asked around, we could probably get some better insight. So I'll report back to you. I'll go ask them and let you know. So.
Well, like I was saying, and you were saying, testosterone is not the only hormone. I mean, it gets a lot of press. Again, maybe mostly because of men and men's research towards libido, and they just applied it to women. But when it comes to female libido, in like being in the mood and bonding and sexual motivation and reward, those are all different hormones.
Right.
And so women are we're very hormonally driven sort of day to day as we move through our cycle. And then as we get into menopause, we kind of lose that cycle part. And so we lose those hormones that do all those other cool things, such as bonding, such as love, affection, motivation. We don't get that trigger as much as we used to. I mean, even estrogen, you need estrogen to make serotonin. Serotonins are, classically call it our antidepressant hormone. And so when women go through menopause and they're like, why am I more depressed?
Yep.
because you're actually not making a lot of estrogen. Therefore, you're actually not getting the signal to make serotonin, and like now you feel more depressed. And since we're on the subject of libido, like when you feel more depressed, like you surely aren't in the mood, and it has nothing to do with testosterone necessarily. So
yeah. No, again, I just see so clearly why so many women in their 40s and beyond, like why relationships fall apart. And it's a hormone at the root of it is hormones, which is why fixing those hormones, now you actually have a fighting chance to fix the other problems that might be happening in the relationship. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, testosterone and working out. So, what influence does testosterone have on your desire to work out and your ability to build muscle?
I think really big, especially because testosterone plays a role in dopamine, and dopamine is our reward hormone in our brain. And so, with motivation, when you're lacking motivation, we often think you're maybe lacking dopamine. And then when you're in your 40s and 50s and in older and missing out on that testosterone, it's also possible you're missing out on that like dopamine poking, and estrogen pokes dopamine as well. So again, it's a double whammy. You've stopped cycling, or you're maybe irregularly cycling in your 40s. And so you don't get the estrogen poke for dopamine, and then you don't really get this testosterone, poke. And then you're like, meh, I don't really want to do this.
Right.
This isn't really any fun anymore. Now, once you do exercise, I have a lot of women that report, I feel so much better after. I didn't want to, but the active exercise, right? All the endorphins get released. You feel so much better. You're working on that lean muscle, and then you're glad you did it.
So you make yourself do it anyways.
You've kind of got to force yourself. I'm like, I know it sucks. Trust me. On a cold, dark morning, it's the last thing I want to do. So I'm like, get on it, Carrie.
Yeah, I would say at 51, I don't crave exercise like I did at 31, and I miss that craving. I like where you're like, I just got to go for a run. I'll feel so much better.
Yeah.
Now it's like I should go for a run because I'll feel better, but I don't want to.
Right. And imagine the women who never had that craving to work out, right? There are definite women, men too, who don't love exercise, never loved it. Not a fan of it. Do it because they have to, so to speak, or they know it's good for their heart health or whatever it is, bone strength. And now as they get older, they're like, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Like, I know.
Interesting. Okay. And then what about toxins? I found an interesting article as I was putting together this new book on fasting for women. And I found phthalates can actually be testosterone like mimickers. Have you heard that?
Mimickers or killers?
Well, the way that the article said is it was like a block like receptor sites for testosterone.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Have you heard differently?
I have heard that. I have heard that. Yep. So blocking the receptor site though means so if it binds the receptor site, you have two options. One, you just block it and you're dead in the water. It doesn't turn it on or do anything. Or two, it is a mimicker and it binds the receptor site and turns it on, and now you have a testosterone-like effect. Okay. And so I have read in utero, so in the womb, that these chemicals can really affect how the baby, how these receptors get turned on or off as we get older. So women who are exposed to phthalates as we get older, I've actually seen more, one, they can act estrogenic, which is a big problem, right? They're endocrine disruptors, and our endocrine system is the last thing we need to disrupt. But then I actually see it sort of reduce the effect, or make you feel less like you have hormone in the first place. Okay. So you feel more depleted of hormone with some of these, like testosterone, specifically testosterone.
So would detoxing environmental toxins out help elevate?
Huge. Yeah, I think so. And in regards to like estrogen, because they're estrogen mimickers, you as a woman may have low circulating estrogen, but these hormones are acting like estrogen, and so they're turning on receptors in places you don't want, like your breast tissue. And so it's not good for testosterone, and then of course it's not good for estrogen either. And so yes, doing what you can to read labels, start to switch out ingredients, start to look at even little things you don't even realize. Like, we talk about this a lot, like storing stuff in glass instead of plastic, right? Drinking out of glass, stainless steel instead of plastic. Candles, air purifiers or excuse me, fresheners, and the things you hang in your car, like these things that we just don't even think about, and then you read about fragrance and how it's can be an endocrine disruptor, and you breathe it in, and a lot of people get headaches. Why do you get a headache? Because it's a chemical
Yes.
that you're breathing
Yes.
in, and then it's affecting your estrogen and testosterone, and so it can be really overwhelming. So I tell women, just take it one thing at a time. When you run out of shampoo, start looking, for new shampoo that doesn't have, sodium lauryl sulfate and phthalates. And it'll say it on the bottle, right? Parabens, all this stuff. When you run out of that blush, look for new blush, right? Just start to make, when you run out of your kitchen cleaner,
Yeah.
start to look around for the next kitchen cleaner. We're going to buy it anyway.
Right.
So just when you run out, use the next thing, or laundry detergent, right?
And
You may want to go ahead and ditch that car scented thing,
oh
though.
God,
Sorry.
we've been talking.
Throw this
This
out.
has come up a couple times today. When you get in an Uber and they have one of the Christmas trees hanging from, and you're
Oh.
like, oh man. Or and then you put on top of that, like if you're an Uber driver and you're listening to this, please don't put your cologne
Yeah.
on. Don't put your Christmas tree on hanging
I
from
know.
your. We don't like. It doesn't. It's not. It doesn't. We don't like it. It's not.
We don't like it. Right. Women's hormones, men too. Men's
Yeah.
hormones don't like it either. Men's testosterone surely doesn't like estrogen mimicker. No man wants an estrogen
right.
mimicker. Well, that's not true. Not all, no men, but
Most
men who would prefer to stay
There
testosterone
we go.
dominant would prefer not to have endocrine
well said.
disruptors,
Well
right?
said.
Because then they're like, I'm developing man boobs and I'm developing a belly and I'm having erectile issues. I'm like, yeah, we can't have
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Okay, so I think we beat testosterone into the ground, but here's what I think is like when I start to put the picture together, I'm like, oh my God, like my heart hurts for women over 40 because I start to
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
how our hormones is like set us up for a really rough ride if we're not aware of it. So the
Yeah.
second thing that we see so much on our Dutch test are the estrogen metabolites. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
find people don't have enough protective estrogen and they have too much 408 or yeah, too much 4OH and
Yeah.
16OH. And so they have the
Mhm.
harmful. So to give us ideas like around the lifestyle and what is it
Mhm.
that makes you have good estrogen protective and what makes you have the harmful ones, break down into the harmful.
Absolutely. And shameless plug. This is what I'm talking about on my Instagram all month long
Yes.
because it's this important
I
to
love
me.
it. And we have to talk about wine. I gotta pick your brain on wine because
know.
that's
I know.
that is the icing on the cake. You have all these
I
hormones
know.
missing, and you just want to drink wine. And
Yeah.
you say we shouldn't.
Been well, I know. Well, as I drink the occasional wine still too. I'm not totally alcohol abstinent, but yeah. But let's go
Yeah,
back to the
go
hormone
back.
part, the estrogen part. So and this applies to men or women. I tell people this applies to all genders and all races because I get asked a lot. The basics of detoxification is the same in our body. So you have an estrogen, and then you have to go through phase 1 estrogen detox, and then you go through phase 2, and then you go through phase 3. So it's a 3-step process to get rid of it, to make it safe enough to eliminate. So in phase 1, you have 3 pathways you can go down. One is considered less problematic, one is considered the most problematic, and one is considered like moderately problematic, depending how you look at it. So and they're numbered. So the 2 pathway is the better pathway to go down. The 4 pathway is not the better way to go down. And the 16 is good for bones, but not necessarily good for boobs, for breast tissue. So I tell women, if we're trying to divert ourselves down to the 2 pathway, which is the better pathway to go down, we're looking at eating the brassica family, the broccoli, the kale, the cauliflower. That's what we're looking, because inside those vegetables, there is an ingredient called indole-3-carbinol, I3C. And when I3C hits when you chew it up, the food, you chop it up, you cook, you saute it and eat it, that I3C hits your stomach acid. So stomach acid is important. And it breaks apart. And when it breaks apart, a big constituent is called DIM, diindolylmethane, DIM. DIM preferentially pushes you down the 2 pathway. It activates a nifty little receptor that sort of like shunts you down to the 2 pathway. And so eating those foods and DIM are a big way to be helpful. There are definitely some other things. There's foods that contain quercetin. Quercetin with a Q. Quercetin we often think of in the natural world in like allergy season. Quercetin is in a lot of, it's an antihistamine, it's anti-allergy, but it also helps to push you down the 2 pathway. And so those are some good like either dietary or supplemental ways for that.
Okay,
phase
I have a
1.
question on that. So
Please, yeah.
what if you want to go carnivore and you believe
So if you
and
want to go,
believe that
Mhm.
veggies and the toxins in vegetables are harmful?
Are the devil.
Yes.
Are the devil. Yeah. So then we focus on, and you should always do this anyway. You want to focus on phase 2 and phase 3 preferentially in the beginning, because my analogy is always the same. If you've ever heard me talk, I mean, you have, but people listening, it's always a clawfoot bathtub, and it's clawfoot because I'm extra as opposed to a regular bathtub. So the water coming into your bathtub is phase 1. You can never turn your water off ever. Your detox is going 24/7, 365. So picture a bathtub that's always running. The drain is your phase 2, and the sewer line out of your house, either to your septic system or to the city sewer line, is your phase 3. And so basically it's liver, intestinal tract, or kidneys. So you're going to pee it out or poop it out in your sewer line.
Okay.
And so I tell people, if you're just constantly adjusting the water of your bathtub, but your drain is clogged or your sewer line is broken, like you're going to have a big fat mess. So if you really should focus on gut health first, always, no matter what, because if you are constipated, if you have parasites, if you have inflammation in the gut, that affects how you process estrogen. So if you're carnivore and you're like, vegetables are the devil, I don't do this, then you're still going to focus on the gut. You're still going to do gut health stuff. You're still going to make sure you're having regular bowel movements. You're still going to be focusing on getting rid of parasites or candida or, reducing inflammation, because that will always help with your estrogen detox. Your phase 2, once like looking at your drain is managed by an enzyme called COMT, C-O-M-T. A lot of people have had their COMT tested. It's
Dutch test.
normal, fast, or slow, right? Yeah. We don't test this. We don't actually test the SNP. You have to do SNP testing for that.
Yeah.
But we tell you, we give you an idea of if we think it's fast or slow, depending on how you get from the water through the drain. We test both the water and the drain. We just don't test the sewer line. So that's more vitamins. So we're thinking like the B vitamins. We're thinking like B12, folate, B6. Zinc is a big one. Magnesium is probably the biggest nutrient there. SAM, which is also known as SAMe, which is a supplement. And so again, if you're back to the carnivore example, if you're carnivore, you are maybe, if you're taking supplements as part of your multi or extra magnesium or a B complex or something, then those things will help your phase 2 work better. And then again, like I said, now we're back to phase 1, but I don't ever adjust the water until I've got the sewer line connected and open, and I've got the drain unclogged. I've pulled all my hair out of the drain and then let it flow free. And then I focus on phase 1. Now, I do get asked, especially in menopause, should I take DIM? Like I don't have a lot of estrogen, but I'm worried about breast cancer risk. What do I do? I actually don't give DIM or indole 3-carbinol to women in menopause because I don't want their estrogen lower than it is, because it's usually menopausally low. Unless you are working with somebody in oncology, maybe you do have breast cancer, you have a family history, you have BRCA, and your oncologist or your functional practitioner who does oncology is saying to you, you need DIM. I know you're menopausal, but you need DIM. In that case, then follow their advice 100%. But for the average menopausal woman, focus on the drain and focus on the sewer line.
And so the 2OH is the water coming in. Is that what you're saying?
The 2, the 4, and the 16, they're
all
all
the
the
water.
water.
Okay.
So you can adjust the water,
Got
all
it.
the water.
So, okay.
You can adjust your water, the 2, the 4. You can adjust what kind of water comes in, and then your 2 and your 4 go through the enzyme COMT, C-O-M-T, and basically magnesium and SAMe. SAMe's the methyl donor. So the M and the T in COMT stands for methyltransferase. It basically helps. it's like a giver. it like somebody hands it a methyl and it turns
Aw,
around and it hands it to
crying.
estrogen. That's what it does. And so when it hands the methyl to estrogen, estrogen
Yeah.
is now neutral. And it can't cause more damage. It can't do anything. It's actually in some cases protective, and then you can get rid of it out of
Okay.
your body. And so that's where that's
Okay.
the drain. That's like, okay, like instead of building up in the bathtub, let's drain you out. And that's what magnesium helps, zinc, the B vitamins, those sort of things all help with. Now in there, which we haven't talked about, is your gallbladder.
please.
Like gallbladder
Okay.
health is really
Go
important,
for it.
right? So bile health. A lot of women, especially as they hit menopause, they get gallbladder issues. They lose their gallbladder. Maybe you lost your gallbladder a while ago. And so if you're experiencing gallbladder, there's a number of foods, I guess, like choline supportive foods. If you're eating vegetables, artichoke, garlic and onions, these things help support beets. Beets is one of my favorites for
Okay.
bile and the gallbladder. And so these things help just move the sewer line along.
Got it.
We like these
Okay.
things. Yeah. And I have definitely people do like lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. They'll take bitters before they eat because all of that helps to prep one, the stomach acid, but two, the gallbladder. That food is coming in to help with digestive enzyme
Yeah.
production.
I
And
had
so
read,
it's
I'd read
helpful.
that the gallbladder was also a storage for toxins. So a lot of times, that
It is.
you got your gallbladder
Mhm.
removed because the toxic load got so high. But so just because it's out doesn't mean that your toxic load went down. Yeah.
Right. Right. And gallbladder helps us with fat and protein
Right.
breakdown. And so many women get their gallbladder out and they'll go, I can't eat this food now. And I would warn people. I'd have patients who'd have their gallbladder out for whatever reason. And I would say, look, it's going to be an exercise in experimentation for the next year or two, where you're going to be able to eat a food and then the next week you're
Right.
not, or you're going to be able to, eat chicken and then suddenly it makes you nauseous. You'll have salad and then you can't, and you'll try steak and it's not working, but in 2 weeks from now it will. And that's just your body adjusting to the fact that you don't have a gallbladder anymore. Because nobody tells your body when you have an organ or a gland removed, right? We know it consciously, but it's not like, the liver's like, okay, cool, the gallbladder's out, I got this, I'll make up for it. Like when women have a hysterectomy and they have their ovaries removed, like the thyroid and the pancreas and the ovaries are still like, hello,
Interesting.
and where'd the ovaries
Yeah,
go?
you're like,
Do your
they're
job.
like pecking on them, like, hey,
Yeah,
sex
exactly.
hormones. Interesting.
Let's do something. And it takes a while for the body to go, oh, they're gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
On the topic of DIM,
Mhm.
I'm sure you do this where when you learn a new concept, you're like, well, let me try it on me. Let me see how, let me
Oh,
see how
totally.
that works. So I tried that with DIM about 5 years ago. And I'm a believer that if a little bit's good, you should probably take more because that'll be better.
Mm.
So I literally over a course of a week was like mega dosing DIM. By Friday, I was such a hot mess. Like, oh,
Hot, being literal.
everything.
Hot flashes.
Crying. I was paranoid. I was irritable, so much so that my husband was like, why don't you go for a run and come back? When I came back, he had made dinner reservations at a really nice restaurant. And he's like, I think you need something else. And then I realized I traced back and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God, too much DIM. So,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
tell us about wine
Yeah.
because
As I drink
yeah,
out of my
right.
wine glass.
because okay, let's go back to this picture of the woman over 40. So she's missing all these hormones, her libido's down, she's gaining weight, she's depressed, and a flipping glass of wine. Come on now. It tastes so
Mhm.
good and it's like that immediate satisfaction. But it's
Mhm.
is it causing the problem to be worse?
Yes, it
This
is.
is like the
Oh, this
coolest
was
part
so
of the
hard.
whole story.
It is. And so wine, alcohol in general, because I have women go, well, what about tequila?
Yeah, there
What
we
about,
go.
vodka? I do vodka on the rocks with lemon. Can I do that instead? And I have a lot of women biohackers who are tell me, well, I can drink biodynamic wine, organic, right? I can
Exactly.
drink certain tequilas on the rocks or with some, I can drink vodka and sparkling water and lime and I'm fine with my blood sugar's fine. But we know it affects sleep. We know it affects your phases of sleep. And at the end of the day, it's still alcohol. Your body still has to process the ethanol through the liver, and ethanol's stronger in a sense than estrogen, and it wins. And so when you are thinking of a funnel and everybody's coming to the funnel of the liver at the same time, ethanol will get ahead of the crowd and push estrogen to the back. And so if you have the occasional glass of wine, and this is definitely a hot topic. I have women that are like adamantly, you shouldn't, it's a toxin, you should never. And I have others that are like, I do it occasionally, I'm just aware, and I take my liver support and I enjoy my glass of wine. And so I'm like, if you do it occasionally and it screws up your sleep and you feel crappy the next day and it affects your estrogen, like, you know what you've done. But if you're doing it consistently, it's the consistent women that are like, but I have a glass of wine every night, especially in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Especially in the pandemic, I had more women go, we were drinking a bottle a night, or, we were having a glass or two a night, and because life sucked, and I didn't realize the effect it was having on me. It affects your blood sugar and insulin. It's, you're gaining that weight. It's affecting your detox. And depending what alcohol you drink, it can be a toxin. Grapes are heavily sprayed. And so, if you are just choosing run-of-the-mill cheap wine, because it's cheap and it's, you like it, you're getting all the toxins in it as well when they press the grapes. And so then my biohacker friends are like, well, I drink organic biodynamic wine. I'm like, yeah, me too. Yeah. Still alcohol.
Well, okay. So this is my thing, because I'm one of those people. This is why this is the real reason I brought you on to interview again, is because I got to get to the root problem here with wine. So I do all dry farm, biodynamic, and I'm right now wearing a CGM. So when So when I drink wine, my blood sugar drops, and okay. So shouldn't that be a great thing?
You still have to detox it. So for you to go to the liver.
Okay, what if I slap on a castor oil pack that night?
That's what I do. I mean, the great thing about being in this field, and for the people listening, are that you don't biohack an addiction, but biohack the occasional, right? So when I have my biodynamic wine, then I take liver support, I take more glutathione, I take N-acetylcysteine, I take resveratrol if I have it, I take take B vitamins, electrolytes, I take all the things. I look ridiculous. And what's even worse, and I will fully admit this to people because I am not perfect, I swallow it with my wine. Because in the moment I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to, let's protect everything. Now, do I drink once a week, twice a week, maybe to once a month. It just depends on what's going on. Christmas and the holidays were more. The month of January, I'm like, eh. And so that's what I tell women, but don't biohack an addiction, So if somebody's like, well, I really like 2 glasses a night, and so I'll just take everything Carrie just said and do a castor oil pack every night to get around it. No, okay. You can't do that.
Well,
you got to face the addiction.
So what I did recently with the CGM, I was like, okay, well, so this is interesting because what's wine doing? It's relaxing me. So really my blood sugar is high because of stress. So why don't we go and address that and not have to lean into the wine? That was my takeaway from seeing that for myself.
And it's common. I was watching a webinar of I wish I could remember who it is to give him credit, and he was showing us the CGM of a a professional bodybuilder, like a day in his life or something. And it was hilarious because the bodybuilder had written down everything on his day, because as you can enter in what you've done to see what this caused the spikes. And he had won some competition, this bodybuilder did, and he started out with massive copious amounts of champagne, and then he did, and then he had a steak dinner, and then he had cake, and then he had edibles, and then he had more champagne. And it was really interesting to watch the roller coaster. But the champagne, and the speaker was saying that it's common alcohol will help improve the insulin response, and it can drop sugar. Now, when I drink biodynamic wine, I don't have a problem sleeping, but I wear an Oura ring also. My Aura Ring stats aren't as good. My heart rate variability goes down, which is a bad thing, and my heart rate goes up, which is wine does that. It makes your heart rate go up, which is not good either. But when I don't drink biodynamic, when I have just regular, like if I have a glass of wine at a restaurant, then I don't sleep that well, and my HRV goes down, and my heart rate goes up, and so it's completely,
So interesting.
completely, it's a big difference. Sugar,
So
yeah, it's a big difference. So
Okay, last question, because I want
Yeah.
to respect your time, and I could
Yes.
talk hormones with you all day, but I'll go
We can talk
talk
all
to you on
day.
Instagram. So right before your cycle, so we're all in my office, and my resetters, we're either doing the Aura Ring or we're doing Whoop. And
Mhm.
what we're
Whoop, mhm.
noticing is that week between day 21 to day 28, our recovery is crap. So is that because of maybe
Mhm.
potentially we have too low of progesterone? I mean, despite doing all the right things, we don't seem to recover
Right.
well in that period. Is there a hormonal explanation for that?
My guess would be the shift in estrogen and progesterone, especially if progesterone, just like you said, is lower.
So
Yeah. Now you would think because in the follicular phase, progesterone's naturally low, but you have a lot of estrogen in that follicular phase, right? And then in the second half, in the luteal phase, you have estrogen, just not as much as you had during the rise and the surge in the follicular phase. And on top of it, you're supposed to have all this progesterone. And if you don't, as a woman, then it could cause
So
problems.
the other trend we see on our
Mhm.
Dutch test is a lot of low melatonin, a lot of low melatonin. So
Yeah.
is there anything we
Yeah.
can do for women, help women as they go into that, especially perimenopausal women who might get a cycle every 60 days and would love some extra
Mhm.
sleep? Is there anything we can do to help her sleep during this time?
Yeah. So melatonin is primarily made in the gut, believe it or not, but it's the melatonin in our brain and the pineal gland that helps with the sleep. Melatonin is made from serotonin. So after you make serotonin, you make melatonin. Well, if you don't have the estrogen in the first place and you're struggling to make serotonin, you're going to struggle to make melatonin. But melatonin is really, really, really reactive to light and dark. And so I tell women, especially as they get older, you have to be diligent about either wearing your blue light blocking glasses at night, dimming the lights, winding down, getting off your phone, turning off your TVs, reading a real book, not an e-reader per se. And because you want the darkness effect. And then in the morning, again, we're just trying to help our circadian rhythm. You want that full spectrum light effect. So going outside, seeing light in the morning or the start of sunrise, or fake it, buy a full spectrum light box. They're not that expensive. They're 20 or 30 bucks online, and turn it on in the morning for 10 or 20 minutes. And so I have a box. Well, it looks like a tablet on a little kickstand. And I have no affiliation. I found it on Amazon. I read all the reviews. It was good enough for me. And I have it in my kitchen so that when I feed my dog and I make my tea and I get my water and I connect my Aura Ring,
That's like my morning.
check my CGM, right? I do all the things. It's like right there, and so it's on. It's it's like I-ish, and so I'm getting that lightness if it's dark. Now the other thing for melatonin, obviously you can take melatonin. If that's an option with melatonin. Physiologic production of melatonin, which means normal level, how much do you normally make, is quite low, believe it or not. It's 0.3 to 0.5 milligrams. And yet what's out there on the store? 1, 3, 5 milligrams. So we might be over melatonining ourselves for those women who use it. So for the perimenopausal women, I'm like, who needs it occasionally, I'm like, yeah, it can be really helpful.
Yeah, we see that too on Dutch
but
test. Like these melatonin
Yeah.
lines, they're like huge, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Turns out they're supplementing.
Yeah, so when you supplement, when you swallow it, it goes through what's called first pass. So anything you eat, breathe, drink, or swallow has to go through the liver first for a check, and then the liver breaks it apart so it can deal with it. And when it breaks it apart, they're called metabolites. When melatonin breaks apart, it forms thousands and thousands and thousands of metabolites. So it doesn't mean a person's necessarily on too much. It just means the liver's doing its job. So the Dutch test is absolutely a baseline melatonin check. It's not a am I on too much check, just because of this
Okay.
thing called First Pass. So yeah, and there's a number of like calming, as you know, right? There's things you can do at night for relaxation, right? Like holy basil and skullcap and passion flower and phosphatidylserine and magnesium and chamomile and all these wonderful things that just help relax the body, relax the mind, relax the muscles, and as you're doing the wind down and being in the dark to help you go to sleep and stay
Yeah,
asleep,
my husband and I
hopefully.
have a pact that like after 8 o'clock, we can't talk about anything controversial because it was winding me up so
That's
much that I
smart.
could not get myself to go asleep, and it was horrific. So
Which actually is a good point to bring up, is that
Yep.
during the pandemic especially, I mean, not that we're not out of it, but in the beginning everybody was at
Yep.
home watching Netflix, and so everybody was watching Tiger King, and they were watching serial killer shows, and I'm like, no wonder you can't sleep.
Yep.
You're watching all these whodunits and scary, and they're watching like all these documentaries came out that were maddening, good documentaries, but they're they stood for something good, but it made you mad, right? Watching it, and they made you indignant, and so I'm like, well, of course you can't sleep because you're going to bed freaking out or indignant or discussing something or wanting to watch the next episode, but you shouldn't, and so you just be mindful of that. And I've told more people that, and they're like, oh, you know what, you're right. And everything's coming out online now, right? HBO, Disney Plus, Netflix, everything's got pushed to online. So now all these shows, people are binge watching their favorite show, and suddenly it's midnight, 1 in the
They're
morning, and then they
stimulated.
can't figure out what they
Yep.
don't feel so great the next.
Yep.
Yeah, they're completely stimulated and like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, because you
Yeah.
just binge
So true.
watched whatever show, Schitt's Creek
Creek's the
all
only,
night long.
the only
Like,
one
you
I can
can't do
binge
that.
watch and go to sleep because I'm laughing.
Well, that's true, for sure. But like when you're on your
Right.
bright TV, if you're that sensitive, then it could be a problem.
With your
So
blue lock. 5
yeah.
questions specific to you, rapid fire, and then we're going to let you go. And
Okay.
I'm so grateful for your time. Okay, if
Okay.
there was one person of influence right now, and influence is sort of a obscure term, but one person in the world right now of
Oh.
influence that you could sit down and have a conversation with, who would it be, and what would you want to talk to them about?
Oh my gosh, a person of influence that I would want to talk to. Honestly, it's I mean, I know you said it like influence, but honestly, it's the author, that author of that Come As You Are, Emily Nagoski, because I would have a whole lot of
Great.
libido questions for her, just to help
Yeah.
women. I don't know her, and I would love to sit down and talk to her. Like, can we have a better conversation about this? And she also wrote the book Burnout, and so just as an educator and as an author, I would love to know more, just to help women more.
You should go find her. I'm sure she'd love to chat with you.
I'm going to. I talk about her book all the time.
We have that with Libby
should.
Weaver, who wrote Rushing Woman Syndrome. Have you watched? Anyways,
Oh,
okay, so you got to
I
go
know
read
it,
her
but
book. Amazing, and she is like another hormone hero. We just got confirmation she's going to come on my podcast. I know, and I know it's like
How cool is
some
that?
people want to have the like Brene Brown. I want Rushing Woman Syndrome author.
I know.
Then I'll take
I
Brene.
know. I know. Yep. Renee would be a great one to talk to. I know there's so many, but I was like, who could I actually sit down?
Right. Yeah.
Like that's more likely.
Yeah. Okay. If
It's
you were on
probably
a
more
desert island and you can
Yeah.
only bring one biohacking tool, what would it be?
One biohacking tool. Trying to think. Oh, honestly, it'd be my noise canceling
really?
headphones. So I don't turn them on at night, but I honestly sleep with noise canceling. Some people use earplugs. I sleep with noise canceling headphones on, and it's made a world of difference in my sleep. I mean, I'm sure earplugs too, but my ears start to itch
Okay.
after a while, and so I switched to headphones, and
Oh,
that's
what
made
are
a
they-
world
what
of
brand?
difference for my sleep. I think they're Bose. I think
Okay,
they're
I
just the
gotta go.
Bose. And the reason I got into them was I was traveling so much for Dutch. I literally,
Right.
well, I used to back when you could travel the world for Dutch. I'm always on airplanes, and I can sleep on airplanes, but I always have my noise canceling headphones on, and then I'm in hotels, strange hotels, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep with these on and see how it works, and now even at my house,
Okay, I gotta
sleep
try
with them
mine.
on,
I
and it
use a
works great.
fan app. I turn this app on that's a fan, and it just cancels everything out. But
Mhm.
that could be better.
So I do have an Uller, and I do love that. It would be an expensive biohacking tool that I'd bring on if I got stranded on an island, but it is so. People ask me like, "Oh, do you like it? Do you think it's worth it?" And at first I was like, "Man, I don't know."
Me too.
And now I'm obsessed because I get cold at night, and it's cold here, and so in the winter, which is when I bought it, I like it's like nice and toasty when I get in, and then I turn it down, and then I sleep really well. And then in the morning, I have it on warm wake up. So all of a sudden, I'll feel
and then
really
you can't
warm.
get out
and
of
I'm
bed.
like,
I just got one. And I actually am going to do an
know.
episode on it because I wasn't able to sleep in the same room as my husband because he was loud and he was moving around and I wasn't sleeping. It was me too. I wasn't sleeping well. The Uller has allowed me to come back into bed with my husband, which is amazing. And because we can regulate the
Oh my gosh.
temperature and then if I get the noise
Mhm.
under control, everything works. But that coolness underneath me as a 51-year-old menopausal woman is like, it's heaven. So I'm a big fan. So
Yeah.
okay, best book you read in 2020.
It was
Oh,
Atomic Habits.
okay.
I thought I had it in here. It was Atomic Habits by James
Oh,
Clear.
okay.
I thought I had it in
Well-
here. That was my favorite and that I read. But like I got really into personal development, mindset stuff, and I highlighted so much out of it.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that
Red
was my
wine
favorite.
or white wine?
I do red wine usually, but I do white wine in allergy season because if I have environmental allergies in the spring, and so in red wine can set off a histamine response. So I biohack it.
I love it.
So if it's springtime and I'd like a glass of wine, I do a chilled white wine, dry wine, because then I don't get
beautiful,
the histamine response like I
beautiful.
do with red.
Okay, last
allergy
question.
season.
If you have a message for the world, if you could implant one thing into everybody's brain, especially right now, what would that be?
So I say it. Well, I have two. One is healing happens at Joy. So there was I wish I remember her name. This is terrible. C44. She was talking about vibrational levels, and she said healing happens at the vibrational level of
Love
joy.
that.
And I was like, that is brilliant. So finding joy, spreading joy, being joy, reading about joy I journal about. It's one of my statements when I journal. Healing happens at joy. I am joyful, and so that's what I try to focus on. But the second thing, that's more of a biohackery thing. I said earlier, it's the light and dark thing. So we have clock genes in our brain, and clock, like the clock in your wall, dictate in our human body our rhythm in a day, right? And so our rhythm in a day, we are 24-hour human beings, but our clock genes are a little longer. They're a little bit more than 24 hours. So we have to set a clock gene with light, and we fix or reset a clock gene with darkness. That's how we do it. And so for all the people listening, if you have rhythm issues, sleep issues, energy issues, reproductive issues, cycle issues, you have to reset your clock gene. And you do it. It's free and easy. Like sleep in the dark, get off your bright stuff at night, wind down, and in the morning try to get some lightness, some brightness into your eyes. And
Amazing.
do it consistently. I know when we're all in middle school, nobody wants to hear about menopause in middle school, but at least if somebody had said, here, we're going to explain whatever, Sex Ed 101, we're going to talk to you about puberty, and we're just going to throw this at you, this thing about menopause, just so when you get older, it's not going to be a total surprise. You can be like, I think I heard about that when I was 13. Okay.